There we go. I'm telling you, every week is something. That's why you practice makes perfect. We are live again on Tuesday, and it is PM, 7 p.m. on Tuesday. And like I said last week, I am going to make a concerted effort every week to come and share some information either with somebody or myself, like tonight. Bring some just little nuggets to share with people. So, thank you for those of you who are jumping on. This is exciting, of course. Everything is exciting to me because, I guess I'm just appreciative. I'm glad that God has given me this opportunity to just come and share what I have with whoever is interested in listening. To just come and every time I tell you. So, anyways, my name is Kishen. What I found is when I look back on the recordings, they got my name as Keisha. Keisha is not my name. Kishen, Kishen, is my name. And I'll be honest with you, we're going to talk about goals this time around. But for those of you who have not listened, or this is your first time you're joining, or maybe you've visited every Tuesday that I've popped on. But what I've learned in my years of existence is you have to own who you are. You have to own your place. You have to earn and own your direction. And that's why we're going to be talking about goals. Goals. 2020 was a year, although there were some losses for me personally with losing my dad, but there were some successes as well. So I'm pretty excited about some of the successes. And I'm not going to be on here for a long time, but I do want to just talk about goals. A lot of people talk about what they want to do, where they want to be, or what they want to accomplish in life. But do you make it a goal? Do you write it down? Does it become tangible so that you can work with it? And a lot of what has sort of led me in this direction is just really when I made it a concerted effort to not let anybody else define who I am. When I was little, and I've shared this story before, this may be your first time hearing it, but when I was a little girl, my dad always affirmed me. He affirmed my intelligence. He affirmed me as an individual. And I had some pretty important people in my life who affirmed me. However, when I got older, the positive reinforcement that I received as a child, it was a little different, because then I was actually living as an adult. There is no book to parenting, and there is no book to being an adult. It's trial and error, and that's because everybody is different. What works for one person may not work for another. And that's why I don't like vision boards. I didn't like arts and crafts growing up. Some people, they love vision boards. My vision is writing it down. These are all of my goals from last year that I had to write down and post on my mirror and recite them and believe them. There is and I don't know if this is some type of psychological test where they say you can either create a habit or break a habit in 29 days. Some people say 21 days, whatever it is. If you do something over and over, it becomes a part of you. So growing up, like I mentioned, I was affirmed. My dad told me I was smart, and I believed him. So that carried me into my college years, where I actually was in a different environment with different people and different affirmations, or not so much affirmations. But when he told me that, I believed him. And even today, those words still resonate with me. And I believe that I am smart. I believe I believe anybody is smart. The challenge is if you don't operate in the gifts and callings that you have. I read somewhere, saw somewhere, was listening, and I'm on Instagram a lot. So I scroll through a lot of things. And what I found on Instagram is that they said most children at the age of 2 are geniuses. However, it's after they get exposure from outside influences that those genius tendencies tend to diminish, because they start believing the lies. They start believing, what they see, what they hear. And so those once intelligent geniuses become average because that's what they surround themselves by, or that's what is in their environments. I also believe that as young people, those are the formative years. So when you're young, that's when you start to, whatever you experience as a child, it comes out and manifests as an adult. I've talked to a lot of people who have had traumatic events in their lives, and it does affect them as an adult, whether it's positive. I guess there aren't any positive traumatic events, or maybe they are. But regardless, so we're going to talk about goals. The first thing that I'm going to encourage anybody to do as it relates to goals, anybody can write down a goal and say, I want to accomplish this. But the only way your goal is going to be effective and, I guess, even tangible, reachable, achievable, is if it's a passion of yours. So some people think, and that's why you have kids involved with a lot of things, whether it's hands-on types of activities, whether it's something else that involves just growing their minds. What you expose them to, they either love it or they don't. But when you find something that you're passionate about, and if you had a chance to tune in last week when I was interviewing George Jeffries Jr., I shared with him that I love to talk. I can talk about anything. And I find that my dad was that way as well. He can talk to a stranger and they will hold a conversation forever. But if you are passionate about something, make that a part of your goal, because nobody wants to do something that they don't enjoy or they're not passionate about. So I'm going to encourage you to find something that you are passionate about and pursue it. So that's why I am doing this. I love to talk. I love to learn about people. I am a natural sociologist. I believe that your environment dictates what happens to you when you grow up, dictates what happens, what type of life that you could potentially lead. Now, that does not mean that if you grow up in a bad environment, you have to stay there. That just means that you've been exposed to that. But if it's something that you really want to gravitate towards that will change that environment, it can be done. And of course, we can name a number of people, from even former President Barack Obama. People talk about, his situation, but he overcame those situations. But he's not the only one. So anyways, and again, I'm not going to be before you long, but setting goals, writing them down for me works. If you need something tangible, cut out the newspaper or the magazine clippings and go from there. For me, first and foremost is, if you can see this, God first. So I have to have him in my life, because without him, I really am nothing. Everything that we were created to do is to please God. Those are my beliefs. My name is Kishen. I am the CEO of me. That means I am the Chief Executive Officer. I am Christ focused. I am an encourager, and I'm optimistic. So whatever you do, I encourage you. And if you don't have a relationship with the Lord, you can just talk to him like I'm talking right now. So I encourage you first and foremost to do that. So for me, having a relationship with the Lord was the first thing. And that was what I put around my mirror, and in the middle was God. The next thing that I have written down is interviews. Interviews. I wrote this down because I knew that in the business that I wanted to be in, which is what I'm doing now, podcasting, talk show, that I needed to come up with interviews. And when I first got started, I was nervous. I said, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to be live. I don't want to do anything, because if I mess up, I mess up. But as I think about what's happened along my life, throughout my life, from even the newspaper article when I was 6 years old that was in the Grand Rapids Press, where I was laying on my dad's knee and I was asleep. And this guy took a picture and it became a thing for me. I was pretty excited. But not just that, I was also on the Bozo show, when Bozo was a thing that kids used to go to in elementary school. I was on the Bozo show and I was Belinda girl. And I remember it was during President's Day, and we made some type of cottage cheese cherry something that I absolutely did not like. But regardless, that gave me more exposure. As I got older, I found myself gravitating in that direction. When I remember when we had tape cassettes, you push the button and I would record myself saying, this is Kishen on WKEN, and I just made up all this stuff. So these are things that I knew, and surprisingly enough, I would be doing as an adult. So again, your passion and your goals should align. The next thing is, I wrote down invoices. So invoices are a way to get paid when you have a podcast or you have a radio show or whatever it is. So I wrote that down as well. I also wrote down sponsorships. So you may be saying, why are you writing this stuff down? What does that have to do with everything? Well, again, I'm looking for streams of income, multiple streams of income. So again, if I don't get the multiple streams of income, if I don't write it down, then I won't know what goals to achieve. But even within my career, with the 7 job losses that I've had, and I'm not ashamed to say it, sometimes you got to just shame-face the devil, just expose it. So it's out there. It is what it is, whatever. 7 job losses that were through no fault of my own, or maybe it was. Regardless, they happened. But with each of those job losses, I made a concerted effort to not let that keep me complacent, to not let that define what my next move was going to be. And some people, sometimes they will lose a job and be like, oh, woe is me. What am I going to do? But I said, no, I got things to do. I have children. I have to get out of this rut. Now, it didn't happen right away, but when I got to the 7th job loss, I said, this is it. I have got to do something different. But all along I was planning, and God was ordering my steps, because with each of those losses, I took something with me that made me stronger and prepared me for the next opportunity that I will be faced with. So these, again, there's more, and some of them are repeats because I wanted to make sure that I incorporated them. But in addition to that, I've also had goals, weight loss goals. Back in the summer, I challenged my daughter. I said, I'm going to lose 25 pounds. I was at 183-ish, I think. Yeah, I can say that, because you have to have a starting point. I weigh 183 pounds. And when I went to the doctor last week, I was at 160. So 23 pounds, and I'm too shy of that. So I'm almost there, but I said all that to say this. You have to set a goal, but know that you have to have a starting point as well. I believe in setting big, multi-year goals, even to the point where the goals are like 100-year goals. And I say that because, and I'll use this as an example. If you look at the DeVos Fernando families, their pretty much their heritage, their lineage, their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, on until whenever, they really don't have to want for anything. But if we establish, I establish, you establish that same type of mentality, then we set our generations up for success. And I'm going to stop saying but I want to make that a point. Some people will write down daily goals, and I do that as well. I write down daily goals, monthly goals. I write down quarterly goals. At the end of December, my children and I got together with their dad, and we set goals for 2021 because I wanted them to put it on paper so that they know that they can achieve it and they can see it and work towards it. And then whatever resources or support that they needed to accomplish their goals, we will be there to help them to get there. And again, it's accountability. If your children set goals, you help them set goals to achieve, and maybe they don't know which direction to go to. But of course, as parents, we have a little bit wherewithal that we can point them in the right direction. So I've set weight goals, personal goals, career goals. I have set travel goals. For the past few years, every summer, I made it a goal to travel with my children, go somewhere, wherever they wanted. Well, I won't say wherever they wanted to go, but we would definitely go somewhere as a family, whether it was an extended weekend or whatever it was. We would set a goal to go somewhere. Why? Because it teaches you about culture. It teaches you whether or not you can get along with your family, but you build those relationships, you strengthen those relationships, and you reinforce that family unit. But then also give those memories, establish those memories so you can talk about, remember when we went to wherever it was that we went. And this summer, I'm planning another goal somewhere. I can't say it right now, but they'll know about it soon enough, and hopefully you'll hear about it. But then also I mentioned about the weight goals, and the weight goals directly tie into health goals. So my health goals, and as you get older, things start to happen. So you need to be more mindful of what you're eating, be more mindful of how much you're exercising or not exercising. And those are some of the ways and some of the things that you consider as you get older, because my goal is I want to live to 100 or longer. And some people say, no, I don't want to live that long because I don't want to be old and decrepit. Well, I'm not going to be old and decrepit. I'm speak those things that be not as though they are. So I am not going to be old. I'm going to get older, but I want to have my wits about me. I want to still be able to be active, getting up, going, and some sense of independence. So those are goals that I established for myself. I also have financial goals and retirement goals. And how often do people really think about that? And when you look at financial goals and retirement goals, if that's what you choose to do, what about goals when you actually pass away? Who's going to be responsible for your arrangements, your final arrangements? These are things that we don't always talk about and we don't really want to plan for because it seems so morbid. But with the passing of my dad, that is something that I very much think about. I very much take into consideration and am looking at, should something happen to me, where my children would not have to worry about whatever those final arrangements are. But again, it's setting goals. What goals do you have to set? As you set goals, what do you need to do to accomplish them? Does it cost money? What type of investment do you make in yourself? And who can help you accomplish those goals? Some people think that you have to spend a lot of money on this or a lot of money on that. Whatever your goals are, expect to make the investment. If it doesn't work out, whatever you learn from that opportunity, just take it and build on it. Don't stay there and be like, oh, okay, this just is not for me. I don't know how much money I've invested in myself over the years. Some things were just a waste of money and some things were not a waste of money. But rest assured, if it's a certification, if it's an extra course, if it's some skills, whatever it is that you need to do to accomplish your goals, your personal development goals, your career goals, make the investment. Sometimes people stay stuck in positions because they won't invest in themselves. They may really want to do something, but they won't invest in themselves. I've been talking about a talk show for the past, I don't know how long, but you know what? Social media has it now so that anybody can pretty much have a talk show. Just put a mic in front of you and start talking. And so that's what I'm doing, but I want to be purposeful with it as well. I don't want to just talk and it just be talk, but to give people something to think about. One plants, one waters, and God gives the increase. So I'm trying to plant a seed that may stir somebody's gift so that when they get to that point where they're like, yeah, I'm going to accomplish my goal, or I'm going to do something that I've always wanted to do and just never did it. So just do it like Nike. And when do you want to accomplish your goals? Again, I don't necessarily have all of a time frame. Sometimes you'll set a time for goals to you'll accomplish a goal by, I don't know, the end of the year or the end of an annual year or fiscal year. You'll accomplish those goals. Whatever the time frame is, don't beat yourself up if you don't accomplish it at that time. Sometimes you have to push it back a little bit to accomplish that. And I actually, with what I'm doing now, I think I'm going to have more than one day a week that I come on, because some days people just need to talk about some of the things that they've gone through. I have books I have books that people have written where they've experienced some very traumatic, I don't know how they went through it, events, but they live to tell about it. And I think that's important, that you can talk about those events. And I talk about, some of the things that I've gone through. I've gone through a very difficult divorce. I'm on the other side of it now. I've gone through some health issues. I have been on public assistance. And again, I have lost 7 different jobs throughout my life. But that's not going to stop me, and it's not going to keep me stuck, because I don't want to be stuck. And I'm going to fight my way through it. And I don't care what it looks like, and I don't care what anybody says. And if you see me driving around, pay no attention to my car because that's the car I'm in right now. Does not mean that's a reflection of where God is taking me. People will look at an appearance of something and think, oh, okay, well, she ain't that or he ain't that. Lies. The devil is a liar and he is a discourager, and his job is to steal, kill, and to destroy. But I am not going to let that happen. And you don't either. You don't have to allow life circumstances to take a hold of you. You have free will to accept or reject anything. And I taught my kids at a young age, when somebody says something to them and they don't like it or they don't agree with it, I told them, I said, well, you tell them you don't receive it, because you don't have to receive it. People will say something to you and you're like, oh man, for real? Dang. Bump all that. Okay. Yeah, I'm just keeping it real. You don't have to allow that to keep you in that frame of mind, and you don't have to receive it. And what I'm trying to do as I'm looking at you, I'm also going to switch and look on my my phone here to see who's on. And I've missed some people. I know that I have, but you know what? That's okay. For those who let's see. Hey T, I don't know if you're still watching. Hey LaShawn, cousin. Hey Leonard, I'm sure I missed you, or maybe I didn't. So whatever, again, your situation is, you have the power to change your situation. You have the power to not let external influences keep you stuck in those positions. You don't have to receive that. Hey, Kathy, I'm paying attention now. So, hey, Kathy, thanks for jumping on. But you don't have to allow life circumstances to keep you stuck. You just absolutely don't. And so I want to encourage anybody who's listening to this, anybody who has never written their goals down. I'm going to challenge you to write your goals down. And okay, good T, thanks. Glad you're still here and connected. But I'm going to challenge you to write your goals down. Write your goals down. Write down your health goals. Write down your career goals. Write down your retirement goals. Write down your financial goals and just your personal goals, whatever it is that you have not even thought of. Just start writing things down. A lot of times, hey Malik, thanks for jumping on. A lot of times people will not write something down and forget about it. A lot of times when I'm in prayer, and even today, God will give me something and I'll just jot it down. And I learned this from my pastor, Pastor Joel Brooks. He talks about if you're praying and God speaks to you, you write it down, because by the time you get through that prayer, you may not even remember what it was that was impressed upon you in that moment. But that's what I'm learning to do. In your time of prayer, write down something that God gives you and reflect on it afterwards. That becomes a part of your goals, because even though we write down goals, God has goals for us too. Remember, we were all created for a purpose, and we have a responsibility to bless somebody with whatever it is that God has given us. What he gives us is not for us. It's not for us to keep. It's not for us to hoard, but it's actually for us to share with people. Share with people, because it may help them to get unstuck. I'm so glad that, and Malik, she's been on my podcast Stories with Kishen, and she shared her testimony. There's other people who have been on, and as people share their stories, somebody who may not be brave enough to share their story or courageous enough to tell it, somebody else who's listening may have gone through something similar. And that is an opportunity for somebody to be blessed. Stories with Kishen was started because of my testimony. And people would say, well, why don't you share your story? And I'm like, I don't want to share my story. But what I realized is that we overcome him by the blood of the Lamb through the words of our testimonies. Him, of course, is the adversary, the liar, the deceiver, anything or anybody that's trying to keep you stuck in a moment in time and not get beyond that. So people will say things, you come up against adversity. I shared on the radio on Sunday, this young lady, she was 13 years old, and she had met somebody online. And one day after dinner, she just got up and left. Her mom and dad did not know where she went, and she was 13. She left and went to meet this guy. And she said, as she's walking, something was speaking to her, calling her name, and she did not turn back. And they were like, the voice was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Where are you going? And then all of a sudden, the person that she went to meet called her name, and it sort of shook her. So that small, still voice will speak to you about something that you should be doing or shouldn't be doing, or will give you a warning about not doing something. So again, I'm talking about goals, but I'm going somewhere with this. And so she ended up getting in a car with this man. This man takes her. She said as she's sitting there, he squeezed her hand so hard that she thought it was going to break. Now, again, she's 13 years old, get into this car with this man. And as she got closer, she was getting further and further away from her house. She's not sure how long the drive had been, but they had gotten to a toll booth. And she said, okay, now I'm going to be saved, because clearly at this point she knew that she was being kidnapped. So she gets to this toll booth, and she said, they're going to see me crying and they're going to rescue me. And she said when that gate went up for her and the guy to continue going through. Hi, Miss McCullum. Thanks for jumping on. As she got through the gate, she thought all was lost. She became hopeless at that moment. So again, we're talking about goals and people in situations that keep them stuck. So at that moment, she could have said, you know what, my life is over. And she thought that for a moment. And she was gone for about 3 or 4 days. On the 4th day, she said the guy told her, I'm starting to like you too much. We need to go for a drive. And she said that in her time, the time that he went away, because he went, and I don't know if he was going to get the car or whatever it was. When she got to the place where his home or whatever, she had been chained, a neck chain around her neck to keep her in place. And he, of course, had his way with her. And when he said that, I don't know how she got under the bed. So I guess it was long enough that she could hide. When he left the room, she went under the bed. And after a while, she started hearing noises. And so the door opened, and in that moment, she said, I am going to fight. I am not going to let this man keep me here. She said, I'm going to fight even if it kills me. So as the footsteps got closer, she ended up coming from up under the bed, literally in a fight or flight mode. She was about to fight for her life. And as she came to and was able to see people, she saw 3 letters, and she knew she was safe. It was the FBI. They had come for her. So I said all that to say this: when you're in that moment, that it seems like the darkest moment that you've ever been in, and you think all is lost, you keep fighting, because on the other side of that, you will see the light. The word says that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. When it's just about to break day, which is the darkest hour, just before it breaks day, it gets so dark that it seems like I cannot see. I encourage you tonight. I encourage you not to allow your circumstances to keep you stuck, not to allow a relationship to keep you stuck. Some people are in abusive relationships, and it could be physical or verbal. The challenge hey, Leona, thanks for jumping on. The challenge with staying in bad relationships, and sometimes it's even with family members, you got to distance yourself sometimes, because if somebody's constantly feeding you negativity, what is that going to do to you? What is that going to dump into your spirit? That's going to be some junk and some mess. A lot of the health issues that we have now are stressors from an experience that we had, whether as a child or even as an adult. So again, as we talk about goals and setting goals and moving beyond where we are, just know that if you don't write it down, you can't really expect for it to happen. Or in lieu of writing it down, if you don't create your vision board, what do you have to look forward to? I have so much. I can't even tell you all of the things that I have that I've written down for 2021. It's so big that I know that I can't do it, that it has to be God's hand in my life orchestrating this, because I want to give him the glory. It's not about me. People, you've seen some of the things that I've posted, the articles that have been written, the leadership experience tour that I've been involved in, the digital TV platform that I'm connected to, my podcast, being on the radio, on Ignite Radio on 102.5, The Ride on Sundays at 3. These are a professor at Cornerstone. These are goals that I've written down and have been able to accomplish. And I don't say it to boast. I don't say it to be braggadocious. I say it because God is faithful. He is so faithful. And for people who don't believe, for people who won't even try to understand, that's okay, because one plants, one waters, and God gives the increase. So that's pretty much what it's about, God getting the glory in all of this. So I talked about goals, career goals, retirement goals, health goals, financial goals, travel goals, personal goals. You know, some people say, well, I want to be married. Well, I'm going to be married. Don't know when. And you might be looking, hey, Boaz, if you are looking. But regardless, write those goals down. Because if you don't, yes, he is, Malik. Write those goals down. You write down goals and watch them manifest. Write them down. But as you write down each one of them, you know you have to write down who needs to be involved. What does it look like? And when can I accomplish it? So write the goal. And for each goal, there are steps for each goal. Don't just write it down and leave it there, because it's not going to come to you. Faith without works is dead. So you got to work towards it. So thanks, D. Coach D in the house. But write down your goals. If you don't, again, you cannot expect to accomplish things. It's like driving in the dark with no lights and no path to go on, and you don't know where you're going. You write the goal and then the steps it takes to accomplish them, and that's how you work towards achieving them. And even if you don't accomplish the goal in the time that you set, maybe you need to push it out a little bit more. Maybe you're not ready to receive the goal. Maybe you're not at that point now where you can handle that goal. Or maybe you just got sidetracked, and that's okay. We need to stop beating ourselves up and condemning ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves, because it's liberating. And if somebody, one of the other ways that people stay stuck is because they don't forgive others and themselves. They'll forgive others, but they won't forgive themselves. So I just encourage you to forgive yourself. It took me a while to realize that I needed to forgive myself, but then forgive others too. It really ain't about what you do for them. It's about what you do for you. So forgiveness is beneficial to you. So I want to wrap up with this. Now, I talked about goals, writing the goals, write the vision, make it plain so that those who can see it or those who see it can run with it. That has been evident in my life just by the different things that I shared that I've been able to accomplish and achieve. But that's not the end of it. There's so much more that will be accomplished that I will be able to share. But again, God has given me this platform, so I'm just going to use it. So there's a goal, or an African proverb that I wrote down that I wanted to share because I think it's important. And it goes like this. I'm reading this. It says, a roaring lion kills no game. A roaring lion kills no game. What does that mean? So if you have a roaring lion, what are they doing? They're just making noise. They're just talking. They're not killing the game. They're not accomplishing the goal. So this is what it says. Sitting around and talking about something gains nothing. This also implies what you should work towards to accomplish your goals. But if you're talking about them all the time and not being about them, remember, faith without works is dead. So stop talking about your goal, write your goal down, and then start walking towards accomplishing your goals. Who do I need to talk to? Who can help me to accomplish this goal? Who can help me? Who can support me financially if it's a great big goal? And miracles happen every day. So maybe it's not just for you to hold on to or hoard that, but pray about it. God will show you who can help you to accomplish those goals. So again, a roaring lion kills no game. Don't be a roaring lion. Be a lion who is executing, who is moving forward, who's walking towards purpose to kill that game, to accomplish that goal. If you've missed any of the other recordings, the podcast, I also have a YouTube channel. You can follow Stories with Kishen on the Stories with Kishen Facebook page. You can listen to Stories with Kishen podcast on SoundCloud. And you can also listen to all of the episodes that I will be uploading. I do have a couple uploaded now on YouTube. So again, my name is Kishen, and I am the CEO of me. I encourage you to be the CEO of you, the CEO of your health, the CEO of your personal development, the CEO of your financial success, the CEO of anything in your life. You are the chief executive officer of your life. Stop being a roaring lion, execute some things, and you will be amazed at how your life shifts and how your mentality changes. Thank you again for tuning in. Tune in next week, Tuesday, for more Stories with Kishen, and hopefully you will be blessed. That is my goal. God bless you, and thank you for listening.